What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Dylan. It's Mitch. Webcams are working. Everything is going together. We're here for episode 9 of the Bottom Line Podcast, the weekly podcast where we talk about NFL headlines and give you some big-time videos as well. I'm joined, as always, with Mitch. Mitch, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, bro, except for the fact that technology wants to F me every single time.
Well, you know, we got through some technical difficulties. We had some webcam issues, but we're here. We finally got it. We're ready to go. No Kev this week. He will be back next week for episode 10, a huge episode of the podcast where we have our special guest, who I can officially announce will be on next week. Luca from the Waterboy Report will be on here next week for that big-time game that we're doing for you guys, the fans, where we're going to give away that jersey.
Where I'm winning.
Where Mitch is winning. And maybe, you know, if you're the guy that, if you're the fan that gets Mitch as your person to win this game, you want him. If you're Mitch, because he's so confident, you want him to win because he gets you that NFL jersey, courtesy of myself. I'll send it to you guys, whatever. We'll figure out those details next week, but that game is next week, and we're set for next Friday. So very excited for that. As always, like the video, comment below. Some of the thoughts that you guys have going on right now. I know a couple people are in here. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. We're close to 12,000 subscribers, so hit that mark. We're very close to getting that mark right there. So, without any further ado, we are going to start our big list today. We have a big video that we're going to put out solo here.
Talking about a big list, bro. Look at how big this piece of paper is.
Mine is put on this phone, so you put it on that. You actually wrote it down. I like that. This video is one reason why your favorite team can win Super Bowl 54. I made a video about this like 2 years ago doing the opposite. One reason why your team won't win the Super Bowl, a very negative video, which we'll be doing next week when we have Luca, Kev, and Mitch on here. So we'll do like two divisions apiece. But I wanted to start a little positive, get one reason why I think every team has a chance. You know, when you start out a new year, it's always nice to see, even the worst teams be like, week 1, we can do this. We got
everybody starts with the same record, Dylan.
Exactly. They all start 0-0. It's how you finish and how you execute throughout the season that makes you a Super Bowl contender and a Super Bowl winning team. So we are going to do a list of this. Mitch has got the AFC. I've got the NFC. But we're going to go AFC East, the NFC East, so on and so forth. So I'm intrigued to see what we have come up here and given you guys. So, Mitch, go ahead. Let's start off with the AFC East. What does it take for an AFC East team to win the Super Bowl?
All right, let's start off with the Miami Dolphins because I feel like nobody thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
So that being said, Fitzmagic would be the reason why they win the Super Bowl. If anything crazy enough for the Dolphins to win the Super Bowl, it has to be magical. So it's Fitz magic, and that's kind of self-explanatory. The Buffalo Bills, McDermott's defense. This is a defense that finished second last year in total yards allowed, was one of the better units in the league last year. Good pass defense. They added Ed Oliver to the defensive line. They should have a better pass rush this season. So if that offense is decent enough, it's really going to be the defense that powers them to the playoffs and beyond. And if they are a dominant defense, they have a chance to win. The New York Jets, Sam Darnold's second-year jump. So if Sam Darnold takes a big jump this season, he elevates his game to possibly elite status or even very good status, this team will be around the playoff conversation. And you never know once you get in the playoffs. I'm thinking if Sam Darnold takes a jump, that means Le'Veon Bell's playing well. His receivers are playing well. That offense is scoring points. And the defense isn't so bad on paper. So if Sam Darnold takes that jump, he elevates everybody around him and makes that team a quality team. The Patriots, all I have is they're the Patriots. That's it. That's my reason. They're the Patriots. That's the only reason.
It's a shitty reason, but I mean, I can't argue with it. They make the Super Bowl every year, so I agree with those lists. I think the Bills, especially with their defense, can get it done there. Okay, we'll head to the NFC East from my side here. We're going to start off with the Giants, a team that I, again, like the Dolphins, do not expect to win here, but I put play like 2011, which means focus on the defense, focus on having Eli Manning have a decent season, or Daniel Jones, whoever it is, fill in that role as much as humanly possible and have the defense take over and make crucial impact games in their own division and get a couple of upset wins in the regular season so that if they get to the playoffs, boom, get it going with that defense. You got to play like 2011. That's how their run was made in order to win that Super Bowl. So I think that's what the Giants need to do in order to somehow win the Super Bowl. For the Redskins, another team that I think doesn't have a higher chance, but I think they need to pull off crucial upsets every single time they go down the stretch. I think last couple of years they've been like this borderline team that's lost some really close games, and I think they need to just finish and get those clean upsets that can get them into the playoffs, and then again in the postseason when it gets down to it, I think the Redskins can do that. They just need to come out clutch. For the Eagles, their entire roster is the most talented team in football, in my opinion, and they need just to keep going. They need to have all these pieces together. You've got your boy Carson Wentz. He's healthy, ready to go. It looks like a lot of people are high on him. We got Alshon Jeffrey, Jordan Howard, Deshaun Jackson's about, Nelson Aguilar. Their offensive line is one of the best in the entire NFL, and their defense is pretty stacked, minus their cornerbacks. I think they are pretty weak, in my opinion, but I think their defensive front seven is really strong. So I think this is the most talented team in the NFL. They just need to capitalize on it. And for the Cowboys, my Cowboys, their front seven on the defense is what needs to be done in order to win the Super Bowl. We saw what their defensive line can do. They have a lot of pieces there. I know some of them are leaving for, David Irving, for example, but they still have a really stacked defensive line. And then their linebacker crew was, I think, the best in the NFL last year. You have Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, Sean Lee's coming in here if he needs to be, if he's healthy. Those guys really need to put the pressure on whatever offense they see, and I think they can do so. They won a lot of games last year for the Cowboys, so if they put it in, especially in the postseason, they did get hurt. They got ran over by the Rams. They can't have that happen again. So I think if the front seven can do well, really, really well, they can win the Super Bowl there. So
if I had to propose one for the Redskins, I would say I think they need a quarterback to step up, whether that's Haskins or Keenum or McCoy. It has to be somebody has to play above their head, in my opinion, for them to possibly win the Super Bowl. Like, they have to be very good.
Yep.
Then for the Cowboys, I would say more creative offense. I think a lot is going to fall on the shoulders of Kellen Moore. I do believe in that defense, and I like the reasoning for their defensive line. Like, if they do win the Super Bowl, their defensive line is going to have to be dominant, and I don't argue with that. I'm just saying offensively, they need to take that next step in order to get past where they were last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because last year's offense was very uncreative, having to watch all that for 18 games. So, all right, what do you got here for the AFC North?
The AFC North, starting off with the Baltimore Ravens, the team that did win the division last year. Mm-hmm. I have Earl Thomas-led secondary. I do believe that their defense has taken a hit in the front seven, which is quite obvious. C.J. Mosley, Terrell Suggs, Zadarius Smith. But if this defense is still going to carry the team, and I think if they do win the Super Bowl, it's going to be on the back of their defense. Their secondary, which only improved with adding Earl Thomas, is going to have to be dominant and the best in football. And if Earl Thomas is playing at an Earl Thomas level and leading this team and becoming that leader that Eric Weddle and C.J. Mosley were for this team, then possibly the Ravens, with even if their offense isn't great, can win the Super Bowl. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have the Mixon and Green show. So Mixon and Green need to be healthy 100% and playing their best football they've ever played. And I could see that happening for Joe Mixon this season with a new offense, a new coach, Zach Taylor. And I think Mixon played very well last year and could only improve this year. Now, the question is, can AJ Green stay on the field, and can he be as elite as ever? That's the question. I know he's kind of healthier than he has been the last couple seasons, so hopefully he has a big season this year. But if the Bengals are going to be better than they were last year, and if they're possibly going to win the Super Bowl, they need their studs on offense to be studs. The Cleveland Browns, I think it's similar to the Chiefs last year. I think it needs to be explosive offense. Because if their offense is explosive and they're creating big plays with Baker Mayfield, Odell, Jarvis Landry, Njoku, Nick Chubb, all these playmakers they have on the offensive side of the ball, that's going to set their defense up to being successful as well, getting after the quarterback, pass rushing with Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon. I think everything works off of their offense. So their offense needs to be successful, explosive, big plays, scoring a lot of points. That's the way they're going to win the Super Bowl. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben's mission. Big Ben needs to play his best football. He needs to lead this team by example on and off the field. And he needs to be kind of the voice for this team and carrying this offense more so than he has in the past because he's without Bell and without Brown. I do think this team is very talented, but I think if they do win the Super Bowl, Big Ben's going to have one of his best seasons of his career.
We'll see how much of a leader Big Ben is. We've seen that not go so great.
Equal part of the question, not just the play, but the leadership.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. He doesn't have the two biggest, what's the word? The mouthpieces of last year, all that stuff going on around the organization. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we'll see how it goes, but definitely needs to play a good football. And he did play a really good season last year. I think it was underrated. NFC North time for me. We got the Detroit Lions here. I think it needs to be led by Matthew Stafford and Matt Patricia. We'll talk about Matthew Stafford a little later on, but apparently he had a broken back last year. That's insane. Maybe that was the reason why he had a little bit of a down play from 2018. But we've seen what Matthew Stafford is capable of. He puts up really good stats, but at the same time, there hasn't been a whole lot of production within the organization. And Matt Patricia coming into his second year, you saw the little bit of a disappointment in 2018, but there's new pieces there. I think they're looking forward to seeing what they've got, and I think Stafford and Patricia need to lead the group going forward. And a really competitive division. This is a really stacked division. So if these guys can come in and get the leadership going on there, I think they can have a decent chance going forward. Let's see here. We have the Green Bay Packers. I think they're key. I think it's interesting. You would say Aaron Rodgers, of course. He's the guy that's going to lead them to every single game-winning drive, but I'm not going to go there. I think it's down to their secondary. I think their defense has improved greatly over the last year. They've gotten a lot of key pieces. They've drafted well, and I think their secondary is really underrated and really needs to be talked about a little bit more here. Let's pull it up here. You got Adrian Amos. You got in the free agency. They drafted Darnell Savage. Jair Alexander, I think, needs to be talked about a lot more. So these are really good guys, really talented guys that I think, haven't even met their prime yet. And I think if they're going to get it done, their secondary can step up in big moments, especially within their own division.
Side point on that, I would not be shocked if we saw Alexander in the Pro Bowl this year.
Absolutely.
Put that out there.
Absolutely. He had a couple of really great games last year, and that was just the showcase in his rookie year. So I could definitely see that. For the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, clutch mode. Now, I have been critical about what Kirk Cousins has been able to do in the clutch. I know there have been some reasons as to why he hasn't been clutch. Mainly his offensive line is not very good. But we've seen it on a couple of occasions where Kirk Cousins was given the moment last year and wasn't able to produce as much as what fans and NFL fans had expected. So coming into 2019, needs to get those clutch moments when the game's down 7 with 2 minutes left. Can he get that 2-minute drill? Can he get this team going? Because, again, I feel like the Vikings might be in a lot of really close one-possession games, and it's going to come down to Kirk Cousins to get it done. So I think the Kirk Cousins clutch factor, if he can hit it multiple times, can help them lead them to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Fair.
And for the Bears, I think this is an interesting one. Mitchell Trubisky taking a step up. I think
that would be my exact reason, too.
I think last year the Bears, they had a lot of really good things around them. I think their offense was good, but Mitch Trubisky had a pretty decent season, but I don't think people were clamoring for what kind of season he had. I think he also did have a couple of struggling games. You saw with the Rams, I think it was the biggest example, and the Eagles when they lost in the playoffs in the wild card round. There were a couple of moments where I'm like, I need to see him get one more step. If he takes a big step up, if he upgrades, if he gets some things going, I think this offense can be a little bit more explosive. And I think, of course, with Matt Nagy being there, I think is going to help as well. Obviously, he's been there for a year, but now a second year, another year to get that going. I think Mitch Trubisky taking a big step up would be huge in the Bears' chances to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, for the AFC South, the Colts are an interesting team because I think everybody sees them as a contender in the AFC. So they have a lot of different avenues you can take it. But I went with the offense because I do believe ultimately this is an offense-driven team. You could argue, hey, the secondary, if they elevate their game, this defense could be very good. But I went with the offensive line because I think the offensive line sets the tone. So setting the tone on the offensive line. And that speaks both to protecting Andrew Luck and allowing their running backs to have holes to run the football. So if this offensive line can be very good, elite, similar to the way the Patriots offensive line was last year or the Eagles the year before, we've seen teams that win the Super Bowl have very elite offensive lines. And if the Colts can do that and carry over what they had success with last year into 2019, they have a very solid chance going into this season. The Houston Texans, I went with deep Deshaun because meaning deep passes from Deshaun Watson, because I don't think this team, it's very reliant on Deshaun Watson. I don't think there's a lot around him that's going to really be able to carry this football team outside of like JJ Watt. So Deshaun Watson, if he has a full arsenal of weapons, meaning Will Fuller, you have to stay on the field.
Yes.
Kiki Kote, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Miller, the whole group. If he is on like in similar like an MVP mode, like if he goes full like Carson Wentz 2017, then the Texans can win the Super Bowl. But he needs to be able to play at that level. So he needs to be hitting the deep plays down the field, and the supporting cast needs to be there for that to happen. The Tennessee Titans, this was probably the most difficult one because I don't see like a pure strength of the Titans. So I went with team balance. I just think they need to be a top 10 team on offense and a top 10 team on defense in order to win this. And I don't know if they can do that offensively. I think that's going to be on Marcus Mariota to make that happen. So if they can be very balanced, they can have some good coaching, and they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. I think if they're just the most balanced team in the AFC, let's say in January, they have the chance to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. The Jaguars, I'm going with Foles energizes the defense. So last year we saw the defense kind of gave up because Blake Bortles was so terrible. But if Nick Foles is able to be just good enough to energize that defense to play the way it did in 2017 and in 2018 playoffs, then possibly this team can make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. If this defense goes back to being dominant and Nick Foles doesn't make a lot of mistakes, does his thing, scores enough points, has enough possession, which is key for the defense to be energized, then I believe this team can win the Super Bowl. So that's the AFC South.
Interesting. I'm very interested to see what Nick Foles brings this year personally. I wasn't a big fan of that signing, but he can prove me wrong. We'll see what the Jaguars do, and their defense is going to be a little bit more interesting than usual. All right, NFC South for me. I feel like, again, this is another very loaded division. 3 teams that I can definitely see making the playoffs here, and 2 of them I put on my underrated list. Let's start off with the team that I don't think is making the playoffs, but I have to make a reason for them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The reason for me is Bruce Arians' coaching. He comes in here. We didn't like what Dirk Cutter was doing for the last 3 years or so. We got Bruce Arians, who is quote unquote the quarterback whisperer. And he's basically brought in here to be like, Jameis Winston, this is your last chance. This is your opportunity. You need to go and grab it. So, if Bruce Arians comes in and helps that coaching and gets Jameis Winston going, that talent that's there is talent there. As much as I don't like him, there is some kind of talent with Jameis Winston. If Bruce Arians comes in, puts him in the right set of mind, and he plays well, then this team could be a really surprise team going forward. And I think that they could make the playoffs and go farther if everything hits together. Every pinpoint is there.
Every team in the NFL can make the playoffs. Let's be honest.
Again, it's wide open. Every team starts off 0-0. So I feel like if Bruce Arians continues to go further down that line and gets the team like, hey, this is a new regime, I feel like this could really work. And he was my number 1 hire for new NFL coaches. So maybe there's something there. Let's see what we have here. For the Saints, I think they need a third weapon. There is a couple of things you can say about the Saints. And I know Mitch talked about him in the playoff teams video that you guys can go check out. There you go. Cheap, very cheap plug.
Dylan knows that by looking at the thumbnail because he never watches my videos.
Or do I? No, he's right. But anyways, I watched some of them. Don't worry. But the thing is with the Saints, you got Alvin Kamara, who is a very talented running back, one of my favorites in the game, and Michael Thomas. But who is the next guy to step up? We talked about this last year, and it was a big fault of what the Saints had. Who's the third guy? Who is the guy that if one of those guys gets taken out is going to need to take the load? And they got Jared Cook, who I think is the biggest example of being that third guy. But somebody has to step up and give Drew Brees an option because there's not a whole lot of Drew Brees years left. I think he's still a good quarterback, but there's not a whole lot of Drew Brees left in him. So he needs that third target. You can't just rely on Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara to win football games. They'll win some, but they can't win them all or get very close to that mark if it's just those two guys the entire game. So that's what I got for the Saints. For the Panthers, I think it needs to be the Cam and McCaffrey show 100%. Cam Newton was playing very, very well last year up until that injury about halfway through, and then they just continued to lose football games. If he's 100% healthy and in running that offense, you saw it last year. He had some really good performances, and I think my favorite example was when they were down, I think it was 17-0 to the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles game. And then they just went on 3 drives in the fourth quarter and won 21-17. I think that was a great example. And McCaffrey, over 100 catches last year. Fantastic job at running his role. He's not the greatest running back in between the lines or, right in between the tackles and whatnot, but he's still very good and getting very polished. And I think this third year could be an even bigger performance from him. So if Cam and McCaffrey, for Cam being healthy, but if those two go in it, I think they can do very well. And for the Falcons, this is a very self-explanatory term. Matt Ryan plays Matt Ryan because last year Matt Ryan had a really good underrated season. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks.
Well, then I would question you with this though, because Matt Ryan played well last year. What's the difference between if he plays well this year?
Well, here's the thing, right? Everybody's coming back healthy. Everybody seems to have this confidence around them. And I feel like if Matt Ryan pushes the next step, gets the next step forward, because the offensive line or the offensive play calling had to get better. It's going to get better. And I think with Matt Ryan coming in here and getting the job done in this NFC South, you got to put up the numbers. And I think he'll put up really good production once again this year. So I feel like Matt Ryan just needs to play to that potential because I think the year before, like 2017, wasn't that great. So that's what I got there.
All right. Last division in the AFC, the AFC West. Let's start off with the Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody wants to talk about their offense, so I'm not going to talk about it, okay?
That's fair.
Clark and Jones mask the secondary because I don't think, and I'll rephrase this, Clark and Jones mask the secondary, okay? Because the secondary sucks.
It's terrible.
So, that being said, the pass rush needs to be really, really good. And if the pass rush is really, really good, and I'll just say the front seven in general, they're stopping the run better, they're performing better. Clark brings another force to this line with Jones. I think that the Chiefs defense can take a step up, even if their secondary doesn't necessarily have the talent. So the Chiefs are going to be good on offense, no matter if they have Hill or they don't have Hill, because they do have Mahomes and they do have Andy Reid. I don't care who else is playing on their offense, but their defense, if it takes a step up, they can win the Super Bowl. Now, the LA Chargers, Phillip Rivers' last ride. We need to see the last glimpse of greatness and just a great season from Phillip Rivers. And he played very well last year. But I do think that this team is maybe even more well-equipped than last season to make that run. We just need to see Phillip Rivers, especially at the end of the year, because at the end of last season, Phillip Rivers did have a little bit of a dip. Like against the Ravens, against the Patriots, at the end of that season, he did not play very well. So in 2019, if he can play the same way he did during that regular season of 2018, then I think he can elevate this team to Super Bowl status. The Oakland Raiders, Mr. Big Chest lifts Derek Carr. Yes. So Derek Carr, meaning Mr. Big Chest, Antonio Brown gets the best out of Derek Carr, and Derek Carr goes back into 2016 form, and we're seeing him sling the ball everywhere, and he's throwing 35 touchdowns, 15 of them to Antonio Brown. The offense is lighting up the scoreboard. They're outscoring the Chiefs. They're winning the division. That's what needs to happen for the Raiders. They need to get Derek Carr back. And the Denver Broncos, Fangio reforms the no-fly zone. So Fangio's defensive scheme, he comes in there. They added some pieces in the secondary. They have a pretty good defense on paper. If he can get this defense back into 2015 mode, Von Miller is strip sacking everybody. You got Chubb in there. You have an improved secondary with Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callahan, and Chris Harris, obviously. I think this defense, if it finds a way to be dominant once again, even if the offense is not very good, as we saw in 2015, where it was one of the worst offenses in the NFL in general, and Peyton Manning was awful, this team can still make the playoffs and still, when they get to the playoffs, have a chance to win in those playoff type of games where it's very defensive, lower scoring, tough weather, and they're probably going to be at home. So if the Broncos defense can be historic again, then they can win the Super Bowl.
Historic. That was a top 10 defense of all time, in my opinion, that 2015 team.
Yeah.
Wonder where that video came from. But yeah, I think I think that I agree with that. AFC West is gonna, or AFC West is gonna be an interesting division for sure. One last division to go to, the NFC West. So let's start off with the Cardinals. I think what needs to be done is their young offense explodes. They have a lot of young talent, a lot of very, not Larry Fitzgerald, but the rest of the team is very young in their offense, and a young-minded head coach. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury is coming in from Texas Tech, where they just slinged the gun like crazy, and they've got a quarterback in Kyler Murray that can do so. I think of the young offense. There's the youth. I know that there isn't a lot of experience, which could be looked at as a negative, but all the potential that could be there. If that offense explodes, that youth comes in, I think they can do well and win some crucial games in order to get to the playoffs. And then going forward, let's see here. For the Seahawks, I think it's the running game. Of course, we talk about what Russell Wilson has done, but last year, the Seahawks came in with a really great running attack. I know they don't have Mike Davis anymore, but Chris Carson, I think, came onto the scene last year and had a really good year. I think this year he's going to have a lot of good fantasy potential. And also, I think he's going to be one of the more, I hope people get to see him a little bit more. But we also have Rashad Penny, who was a first-round pick last year. I think we'll get to see a little bit more of him. And J.D. McKissick throws in a little extra bone in there for the Seahawks. So Russell Wilson can do everything. We know what he's capable of. But seeing that running back trio, I think, is going to be what's key for the Seahawks. For the 49ers, do I even got to say Kyle Shanahan's name? Okay, I already said it. But Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers are led by this man, a great mastermind, if you will. I think if he leads this offensive charge, play calling wise, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go in there. Jimmy G himself, he's going to do it. He's going to get the job done. So you just make what's necessary for this offense to work, and I think Kyle Shanahan is the piece to get it done.
You know what I think the difference is for the 49ers this year?
What's that?
They kept the porn stars to a minimum.
I appreciate that. I don't know why I thought that was what you were going to say, but keep them to a minimum. Just one? I don't know. And finally, the Rams. Jared Goff, man. What's going on with Jared Goff? Is he going to be able to finish? Because last year was a very weird year for the Rams. They scored a lot of points. They were a very high offensive unit. But it was mostly led by Todd Gurley. Jared Goff came in here and I think was a game manager. He had Sean McVay come in here, obviously call a lot of plays within his ear. I think was relying more on his head coach calling it more than anybody else in the entire league. So I want to see Jared Goff make an improvement. I want to see him come in there, realize that he doesn't have this rookie mentality anymore. He is getting closer to the veteran status. He has to come in here and play like a quarterback that's ready to lead an NFL team to Super Bowl success. They got there last year, and he played pretty poorly. So I need to see him get there, get a little bit more information, focus on what's necessary, and get these throws right. Because I've seen a lot of mediocrity, in my opinion. And I need to see him take that big step up. Just like Mitch Trubisky. I think Mitch Trubisky did more, but I think I need to see Jared Goff do the same thing.
I think some would argue that Todd Gurley's health would be more essential.
It is quite essential. I'm very scared about it. I don't know what's going on with that situation, but the first and foremost is to lead the offenses. I need the QB set by example. I need the quarterback to be the number one focus.
Then again, like you're saying right now, if Goff does take a step up and he's able to carry this offense even without Goff or without Gurley, then they have the chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Like if he takes a jump into elite status and it doesn't really matter who's at running back, then
yeah, as long as they have somebody there to fill in the role. I mean, we'll see. I don't know if I have much confidence in it, but if he can take that big step up, because for me, grading a quarterback, it takes 3 years to see, okay, is this guy worth the thing or is he not worth it? And I think we're getting into this big third year. Actually, I think we just finished Jared Goff's third year. Or was it his third year fully without Jeff Fisher?
That was his third year.
Okay.
Not his third year with McVay, but his third year.
I think, okay, so I'm going to give him one more year because it is the Jeff Fisher offense was.
I mean, he made the Super Bowl.
No, I get it. But it was the freaking Jeff Fisher was leading his offense the first half year or whatever it was. It wasn't a very good example. So I'm giving him one more year. I think I need to see him take another step up and get to the next tier because somebody on this channel, Kev, will put him in a very low tier of quarterbacks. So I don't think a lot of people are impressed.
What a goofball!
That was crazy. Putting him below Nick Mullins of all people. But there's a segue. But no, I'll do that in a second. But that's it for our, one reason that every team can win the Super Bowl. For you guys watching solo, like, comment, subscribe, and tell us below, who do you think? What is the reasons that your favorite team can win the Super Bowl? I know there's a lot of Patriots fans, and they don't have to put their reasonings, for example. But if you got a team like mine, the Cowboys, or another contender, if you will, or any other team for that matter, comment below what you think. So that's that. Let's get to comments. I think we got a couple of comments.
Skittle needs our help.
Go Skittle. What do you need our help? I've seen that comment before. What?
He said it like 3 times.
He's like, I need your help. I need this. He also asked, what are you guys doing for X Factors? That's your thing. So
wow. I'm surprised somebody asked about that. I actually have been working on it.
Hey, I like that. It is one of the more anticipated videos. I like it. I like looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Don't worry.
All right. It's coming soon. No date there.
Coming within the next. I wouldn't say next week, but probably within the next 2 weeks.
It's a fair cushion.
I'm still trying to because of the success of the other topic videos. I'm probably gonna try and release a video or a topic video for every team. You've gotten a couple. I've done 4 or 5. So
yeah, and they're really successful. They're doing really
I'm putting out. I think the next one I'm working on right now. I already have the script, sort of the kind of notes I want to touch on done. That's for the Vikings. So that will be the next one out.
Gotta check that one out. It's a Vikings second team. Okay, so Sebastian says his early AFC predictions are the Colts at 14-2. Holy bananas. Jaguars 10-6. Texans 8-8. Titans, I can't believe this record, 2-14.
That's no.
That's a no, sir. I don't think the Titans are great, but 2-14. How bad?
I think the Titans are better than last year.
Yeah, and they were 9-7.
The only way that happens is if both their quarterbacks get injured.
And they go get some scrub off the streets. It's impossible.
Because even if Mariota gets injured, you could argue Tannehill's just as good.
Yeah.
So
that'll feed into what we're talking about a little later on with our backup quarterbacks. But 2-14. How? What on earth could they possibly do to be 2-4? Half the roster would have to be missing. Seriously, I don't see it happening. Colts 14-2 is also pretty high. I haven't made my predictions for season records yet, but we'll get in there. I know Mitch has, but
I would not take that bet. Go Skittle. I mean, you could argue that they might be third, but I would not. Fourth is too much. I don't see that happening.
I want to make a bet with this Seahawks
Unless
fan.
Russell Wilson gets injured, that's not going to happen.
Well, first of all, Ghost, you should be wanting to get a jersey from us because we're getting that next week anyways. I would not take that bet because that's too much of a risk. I still think the Seahawks could still have
Ghost feels high on Arizona, he says.
high on Arizona. I mean,
He's high. That's exactly what he is.
I like the Cardinals. I like their youth, but like to bet on the Seahawks.
Yeah, to bet on the Seahawks to be bad is tough. Like, I think the Seahawks will be like mediocre to pretty good. Like, I don't see them being worse than that just because of their quarterback and their head coach.
Yeah. I could see them being second or third in the division. Maybe somehow, some way they could even be first. If I had to put a bet, they would probably be like I couldn't see last out of any team. That's just what I'm saying. So, let's see what I have any other comments. Ghost also says that he sees the Colts could be falling off, which I can't see the case. We got a comment about WWE. Thank you very much. We
always do.
It's always great, so much fun. Who do you think is better? This is an interesting question. Who do you think is better, 2017 Wentz or 2018 Mahomes?
I saw that question. I'm going to go 2018 Mahomes for one specific reason. Okay? Mahomes did things that I've never seen. That's the one reason.
Yeah,
Wentz was great, but not.
He was transcendent in his football ability. Like the way that Mahomes played 16 games last year was incredible. Until the AFC,
also Mahomes' team, even though the offense was better, the defense was really bad. So, like, the Eagles were a really good team.
Yeah. So what Mahomes was doing was carrying this team into getting them that success. I mean, the offense was obviously a reason, but like their secondary was
because the Eagles did still win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. So
yeah. That also kind of hurts the argument, right? If your backup quarterback can go in and do some success and win the Super Bowl, it takes down your level a little bit. I mean, it's still a great season. Let's not take it away from his 13-game performance. It was still great, but he also didn't even finish the season. So, yeah, Mahomes was insane. Like, if we go back, I'm thinking about something later for a video like that. But I like that question. All right, that is it for comments for right now. Let's go ahead and talk about our two headlines, and then we'll get into our top 10 backup quarterbacks. So first off, let's talk about Matthew Stafford, the boy, one of our favorite guys in the league, one of our favorite players in the league. Apparently, there was a report that came out that said he played with a broken back last season for like a majority of the year, which to me is absolutely insane. I also kind of wonder why this is coming out right now. Like, I don't know why this information wasn't released earlier.
Well, you don't release it during the year.
Yeah, but it's also been 3 months after the season.
I guess.
It's kind of weird for them just to do it now. But, I find it quite interesting. We talked about how we were very disappointed in the 6-10 season that they had, or that's basically what we guessed was going to be their record. But what do you take out of this? What do you think about it?
Well, obviously, I take into account that obviously hurt his performance.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no way around it. If he actually did have some sort of a broken back, whether it was a little or a lot, that's going to hurt you as a quarterback. So that also puts stock into me thinking, okay, well, Matt Stafford, there's more of me saying, even more than I'm already saying, the Lions have a very good chance of bouncing back. I think that also takes some of the stress and pressure off of Matt Patricia in a way, because his best player was not at 100%.
Yep.
And I also look at it as there's so many things that were going on last year for Matt Stafford in a negative fashion. His running game that was supposed to be there, which was there for the first couple of games, Kerryon Johnson gets injured. Okay. Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay get injured. You trade Golden Tate. The defense is good, but not good enough for, to make the playoffs. And Matthew Stafford's dealing with basically a new head coach, dealing with new expectations for what Matt Patricia wants at the quarterback position. Instead of Stafford going out there and slinging the ball 40 times a game. He's not as kind of counted on in terms of the offense. So he's having to play a different style. So all of that, just like, I think that has me on the table banging that Matt Stafford will have a better season this year.
You're putting a bet on. You're getting it ready. Let's go, Matthew Stafford. Yeah, I mean, we saw it with Cam Newton as well. I think it was an even bigger example of a guy that was, great. He was 6-2 last year.
He had a torn labrum.
He basically killed himself to play another half season, and then it just went all the way downhill from there. If you have a broken back, like, that's insane. I wouldn't be playing football professionally, personally. I would be taking some time off. But I guess I understood the reason. Like Mitch said, if there's any reason to believe that there's going to be a bounce back, it would be this reason, because he wasn't able to play to his full potential. He was hurt. He wasn't able to get throws down the field. He didn't look like the same Matthew Stafford as before. And it was a little, it was interesting to see how the Lions season went down.
Dylan, with these two guys in particular, talking about Stafford and Cam, the ability to throw the ball with pace and power and be able to throw the ball down the field, that is the biggest part of their game as passers. This is not like Alex Smith. You know what I mean? This isn't a guy that just throws 5-yard passes. These guys are two of the better downfield passers in the league. So once you take that away, it completely changes the type of player they are. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to rush and get something out there that isn't, up to par with their play. I totally agree. It sucks, because we weren't. I mean, the thing was that the defense wasn't that great either. You brought that up. They couldn't pick up the play and play to the greatest strengths to somehow squeak by into the playoffs. But I think they've gotten a lot better, and I think that now that Matthew Stafford's here, we could be seeing them in the playoffs. I know you've been banging on them a lot about them, so.
I had them as an honorable mention in the potential playoff teams. I think they're right on the edge,
on the cusp of something. Interesting. I think it comes down to Stafford and Patricia. We'll see how it goes. And now that Stafford's healthy, we can see it happen. One more headline here, and this happens to deal with your. Can I call him your ex-tight end? Was he on your team? I don't even think no, because he failed.
I don't think he counts.
I don't think he counts. Michael Roberts has failed 2 physicals in the last week. It's very depressing. He was traded from Detroit.
How do you get traded when you're not even healthy?
Apparently the medical staff never talked to Michael.
I will take the 2,000 views, but
it doesn't even people are coming out. No, it didn't even happen anymore. It's not possible because he gets traded from Detroit to New England, and then last week we're on, and then all of a sudden it says, the trade's been voided. He's getting sent back to Detroit and being released. Whoa, what happened? Did anybody
Didn't he sign with the Packers?
And then yes, that's the next thing. He signed with the Packers, and he goes to his physical and fails his physical there, and now he's released from the Packers. He's not on the waiver wire again. Hey, why do you keep going to physicals if you're not going to be healthy? You get signed. Tell these teams you have to be, you're not healthy. Do not go out there unless you're 100% healthy. I don't know what his injury is, but I just find it really funny. Not being in a negative way. I hope he plays well, or I hope he gets signed, but Jesus Christ. A heck of a headline to fail 2 physicals in the last week. Any thoughts?
Not really. I just think it's funny. How does that happen?
How do you keep coming back and then still failing the physical? Just take a break. I know this is your job, but you're not healthy. You can't play. You can't sign in any teams. It's out of your control. Jesus.
I think he'll get signed when he's healthy, though.
Hopefully. I don't know how long that's going to take. They haven't even expressed what his injury is, but
yeah,
hopefully. And no, Dak is not washed up. I don't think you've been watching football last year. All right.
Answering that question, I would rather have Dak right now than Jimmy. Maybe after this season that will change, but I'd rather have Dak. And that's you would know that answer if you checked out me ranking every single quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, go check out that video. Course. All right. Well, now we're here for a video that you wanted to do, and I think it's very interesting.
Well, actually, I was asked to do it in the comments of that video.
Oh.
Yeah, so like I was asked to do it in a video, but I mean, we'll just make this a solo video of the podcast because I thought maybe you would want to join in. So
I do. When I went through this list, I'm going to give you a funny story. When I went through this list, I was like, man, 1 through 7, I'm pretty confident in, but 8, 9, and 10.
I agree.
Yeah,
because we're not including rookies.
Yeah, we're not including
these are only veteran quarterback backups.
Mm-hmm. So 8, 9, and 10 became very difficult for me personally. It seems like it did for you too. What I was looking for in a backup quarterback was like, if the situation came down to the quarterback being hurt, can they fill in the role as well as humanly possible? Can they do the job decently well? And that's why they're a backup, because they're the second best talent they have there. So I find it interesting. I think we should go 10, 10, 9, 9 since we have this kind of list going forward.
All right. Everybody's going to be shocked by my 10.
All right. Go ahead. I want to see it. What do you got?
At number 10, Blake Bortles, baby.
Oh, my God. No. Oh, I got to start the plot. No, stopping the podcast. No, incorrect. No. Okay. Explain to me why Blake Bortles.
I mean, come on. Yeah, he did make the playoffs once, so I know he's terrible, but I didn't see anybody else with a better resume than Blake Bortles. And being in a Sean McVay offense, I think if there's anybody that could get the best out of him, it's Blake Bortles. Plus, I do think Blake Bortles, more so than most quarterbacks, especially veterans, he's very athletic. So, like, at the very least, he can scramble around. He can make plays outside of, like, the traditional pocket passer. So, for me, Blake Bortles with the experience factor, I think he's a very likable player. Like, a lot of teammates really like him. And the third thing is his situation where he's in the Rams, and I think if he had to start for McVay, he would make it work. So Blake Bortles at number 10.
I guess. I mean, he fits a better role for me as a backup than a starter. So in that sense, I agree. He's not on my list. Maybe he should be.
But also we've seen Blake Bortles play very well in certain games.
Yeah.
So, like, you never know. Being a backup with no pressure, he could Fitzmagic his way through.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And he's on the Rams with Jared Goff, the guy that's been very questionable. Never know. I just find it interesting. Remember, he had that great game against the Patriots last year. So you never know. He could have some really good performances. At number 10, I really didn't know who to put at number 10. I was searching. I was scrumming through the trash bags to try to find number 10. I put Brett Hundley of the Cardinals here.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The reason I put Brett Hundley is because, he has a little bit of a resume. He did play for the Packers in 2017 when Rodgers was hurt. He has a decent arm. He can run a little bit. He's just very unpolished, I think, in his technique. But, coming for the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, I feel like they have, don't get me wrong when I say this, it's very wide degrees of possibilities with these two players. But you see what Kyler Murray can do with his legs. I think Brett Hundley's done a little bit with that in his NFL career. I just think his accuracy is very low, and I think his deep passing is very low. But there is some a little bit in there. If the Cardinals need to, I feel like Cliff Kingsbury can do something with him. So that's why I have him here. It's difficult, but it's my reason.
At number 9, I probably have a guy that's not on your list. Yeah. I have Nate Sudfeld of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the biggest reason why this guy's unknown is because he's been a third string for the past couple of years. But whenever I've seen him play, he's played very well, specifically in preseason. I think he's a lot like Nick Foles to me. He has a big arm. He can throw the ball down the field. He's like 6'7", so he's about the same size as him. Yeah, he's just impressed me with his delivery, his accuracy, his ability to throw the ball down the field. And we've seen it before. Doug Peterson with backup quarterbacks has been able to kind of take what that quarterback does best and magnify it and kind of put it on the stage for the NFL. So I think if Nate Sudfeld had to fill in for Carson Wentz, I do believe he could win some games.
Interesting. He is a third, has been a third quarterback on the team. So I didn't think about that, but yeah, I have seen him in 1 or 2 performances in the preseason and all that. So never know. Maybe some good stuff there. Number 9, I have Chase Daniel, the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. You didn't seem very enthused by that. He's probably not.
Oh, I thought he was awful last year. That's why I didn't have him on my list.
Here's the thing, right? He did win one game. The thing is that he showed us in 2 games that if the Bears offense is creative enough with Matt Nagy, he could make some plays. He made some decent throws. I don't think he's the best in the world. You saw a couple of struggles, but he did win one game and got them into overtime in the second game. So if there's any consolation, I just think he needs to train a lot more. I think he needs to get especially his deep ball. I think his deep ball was atrocious last year. But I think his short game accuracy and if there's some creative play calling, he can work within the system. So that's why I have him here at number 9.
At number 8, I have Teddy B.
Teddy B.
Teddy Bridgewater of the New Orleans Saints, assuming he is the backup.
I have him
because I don't know if Taysom Hill counts as a backup or not.
Are we going to play?
So I'm going with Teddy Bridgewater. I know he, like last year, not very good when he showed his thing. So that's probably why I moved him down a little bit. But I mean, he's made the playoffs before as a starting quarterback. I think he was 11-5 with the Vikings. He does still have arm talent. He has a little bit of mobility. I think he can lead a football team. And again, another guy that's in a very good offensive system. So I think if Sean Payton had him as his quarterback, he would be able to take what Teddy Bridgewater does very well and magnify it, just like Doug Peterson. And yeah, Bridgewater, just the track record, the resume, the skills, if he's fully healthy and if he can get back to what he was a few seasons ago, definitely would surprise some people. So at number 8, Teddy Bridgewater.
Gonna give you a spoiler. He's a lot higher on my list than number 8 here, but I can see your reasoning. At number 8 for me,
I haven't seen him in so long. That's
I know there's questions, and I'll explain that kind of thing when I get there. At number 8, Matt Barkley of the Buffalo Bills.
Come on, bro. Seriously?
Look, he won a game for the Bills.
That's why I wanted to do this list, because I knew it was going to be so different.
It was so difficult, bro. Like, again, 8, 9, and 10 are so, hard for me. The reason I put Matt Barkley here is because he did win not a playoff game. He did win a game for the Bills last year. You know, he threw 2 touchdowns. He's been a career backup for, his entire NFL career. And I think he's done, decently well in the weird spots he's been put in, especially when he played for the Bears. He played some decent games. He has a little bit of energy, a little bit of spark to their team. And the Bills quarterback catastrophe last year was insane because when Josh Allen wasn't there, who did you have? I think he was their best option last year, honestly. Didn't play a lot, but he had something. So that's why I got him here at number 8.
Jeez. At number 7, I have Colt McCoy. Of the Washington Redskins, the Texas boy himself.
Texas boy.
I don't think there's much difference between Colt McCoy and Case Keenum. Colt McCoy, I think he's a more athletic than people think. I do think he's kind of lost a little bit in terms of the passer. I think that Colt McCoy was a guy that unfortunately was never really given a chance to be a starting quarterback. With Cleveland, he sort of was, but that's with the Browns. And he didn't do too bad with the Browns. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I mean, he was a fill-in quarterback for the Redskins and really not much else. But I would have liked to have seen him get a better chance. I do think, like I said, he's athletic. He's smart. He can run an offense well. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, but he can run an offense effectively and kind of manage a game for you, make some plays here and there. So Colt McCoy is at number 7.
All right. I like the Colt McCoy selection. At number 7 for me, he doesn't fit the rookie category. He's one more ahead, and he is the backup at this point. It's Josh Rosen of the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. I didn't really count him, to be fair.
He fit the standards of not being a rookie.
Because I have somebody else on my list.
Okay. We'll see where that goes. He's not a rookie anymore. He started 13 games last year. And, we'll see what the quarterback situation is, if there's Fitzmagic or if Josh Rosen comes in. But as of this moment, he is the backup quarterback. So, there was a lot of struggles with his game, but I feel like he wasn't given the greatest opportunity in Arizona. I feel like they shortcutted him a lot. And Steve Wilkes was a very uncreative head coach. So the thing is that he played decently well with what he was given. He had some good performances. He did struggle a lot and threw a little too many picks for my liking. But I think if he gets more experience in there and is given a little bit more enthusiasm with his offense, like, yeah, you can do it. Let's go, Josh Rosen. That's our guy. I think he can step up and win some games, especially for Miami, who isn't the most talented team in the world. I think they're the least talented team, as I've said before. But with a guy like Josh Rosen, he could step in and maybe win some games if Fitzmagic's not coming in there and doing the job.
Okay, because I didn't count Josh Rosen, you'll see a different quarterback on my list for the Miami Dolphins. At number 5, might surprise some people, but I actually think this guy,
that's number
if
6,
given another chance, would be a good quarterback in the NFL. RG3 of the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. RG3, for the last 2 preseasons, he's been the best preseason quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He's lit it up.
Yeah.
And I think RG3, the thing about him is he has kind of mentally gotten over his hurdles, because I think early in his career, even though he's very talented, mentally he was kind of a douche, to kind of put it lightly. So now that he's a better person, he's put in this backup role. I feel like he's taken that and worked with it, because we know RG3, we've seen it. He can still run pretty well. Maybe it's not rookie season RG3. He can still run. He still has a very big arm. I think he's a refined passer now. And honestly, if Lamar Jackson did get injured, I'm not so sure that the Ravens wouldn't be better with RG3. I'm being serious, because I think he is a better passer. So that being said, RG3 is at number 5 because there's not a big difference between Lamar and him. He can do the same things as Lamar, and I think he's gotten better.
Yeah, that's a guy I definitely regret not putting on the list. You said that was number 5 because we were at number 6.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I skipped somebody. Okay, do you want me to give you my number 6?
Give me number 6.
All right, number 6. The guy that I never knew his name, Nick Mullins, baby.
Yeah.
I forgot him because he's Nick Mullins. San Francisco 49ers, he was good last year. I have to give him credit, but I also have to give you this. He was in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and I'm not so sure that everybody else on this list could have done what he did in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So, he was good, but I still got to put that next to it. Plus, I think he only won one game. So, he might have put up good numbers, but I don't think he actually won any games where he was a difference maker. I think he had that one game against Oakland that was surprising. But, other than that, I mean, he seems like a great dude. He has I like that he's very fearless. Like he'll throw it. He'll make the plays. He doesn't really just dink and dunk all the time. He'll try and make the big play down the field. And I do think he's a promising young guy that if he continues to get in there a little bit and perform, he could be given a starting chance somewhere. But I just don't think he'll ever be a starting quarterback. I think he's only really going to be a backup. So he's at number 6. RG3's at number 5.
Well, this is the first time we're agreeing because at number 6 is Nick Mullins. I like where Nick Mullins is at. But by the way, I wish I had RG3 on my list, but I'm not going to change it. So there's an honorable mention, I guess. For Nick Mullins at number 6, I like the kid's energy. I like what he's been able to bring when he was in there filling in.
By the way, better than Jared Goff, according to Kevel.
Yeah, there you go. The quarterback that was playing in the Super Bowl was worse than the guy on the 49ers when they went, 5-11 this year or whatever. No, it was 4-12. Anyways, I like what Nick Mullins brings. Of course, they bring up the fact that he went to the same college as Brett Favre. Brett Favre likes him. He's a nice guy. He put up some decent numbers. Again, like Mitch said, he didn't win a whole lot of games, but I think he was able to bring in some good positivity to the 49ers organization, and I think he opened the door for himself wherever he can go. If he stays with the 49ers, he's given an opportunity. If he, if a quarterback gets down again, or a Week 17 game, or show himself out in the preseason. And then if he goes to another team, maybe he can do something. The point that he's in a Kyle Shanahan offense is a down because, he's one of the best offensive minds in the game. So if you fit in that kind of offense, I feel like, C.J. Beathard even had a good game with the guy named Kyle Shanahan.
God, that guy's horrible.
He is terrible. He is a terrible quarterback, but he almost won against the Packers. You know what I'm saying? He almost beat Aaron Rodgers, for God's sake.
True.
So in Shanahan's offense, you're going to be able to get something done if you can play quarterback at least a little bit. But I like the kid's energy. I like his spunk. I like his fire within him. And I think, in a certain team, he can get a good job. So I think I have him here at number 6. Number 5, I don't know if you have him here because I'm not 100% sure if he's a backup, but I'm going to put him here as the backup.
Oh.
I've got Case Keenum here at number 5.
Oh, no, I have him as a starter.
You have him as a starter. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you my reasoning. Because I think when we get into
only at 5?
He's only at 5. Yeah. I think there are 4 other guys. Case Keenum here is the number 5 because of this. I think that Dwayne Haskins is going to take the starting role by the time we get to the regular season. So I put him here as a backup option. He really disappointed me in his Broncos season. Like, I feel like there were some things hindering their team, but I just did not see, he got this contract with the Broncos to get something done, and John Elway, I think, took a swing and missed. I think with Case Keenum, he had some opportunities, but he wasn't able to get the job done. And I think he can fit in the role as a backup, and he's had some good success. I just don't see him as that clear-cut starter. And when I look at these other 4 guys, I think they do the job a little bit better than what he brings to the table, in my opinion. So I have him number 5.
At number 4, I have Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is a new backup for the Chargers. Played for the Browns a little bit as a starter last year, and of course made the playoffs with the Bills. So, yeah, his resume speaks for itself. He's usually a guy that doesn't take a ton of chances. He's kind of a game manager in that regard, can make some plays with his legs, one of the better runners in the game still, even as a backup. And I think if he did go down for Phillip Rivers, there's some kind of chemistry there. I think a big reason why he went to the Chargers is Anthony Lynn was his offensive coordinator in Buffalo when they went to the playoffs. So they'd be able to do some similar things that they did with Buffalo that season. He does have a big arm, but he's inaccurate. Tyrod Taylor's a solid guy. He's won some games before. I don't think he's going to win you a Super Bowl or anything like that, but he can manage a game and make some plays with his legs. So he's at number 4.
Speaking of Tyrod Taylor, that's who I have at number 4. Glad to see we're getting there with the same picks. Tyrod Taylor, he's coming to the Chargers organization. A little bit different scenario than he was with the Cleveland Browns. Again, Phillip Rivers is getting up there if he needs to fill in a role for a game or two. If Phil's not feeling well, I think that Tyrod Taylor can do so. He made the playoffs with the Bills. He's the only quarterback to do that this millennium. I just want people to recognize that. That Bills team was not that good, but Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback. He was the quarterback that got the job done, was able to win enough games to get it done. And, in a certain role, I think he can do it, especially with the Chargers. I think the Chargers offense is pretty interesting, and I think he can use his legs and dump it off to Melvin Gordon, or if he needs to get to Keenan Allen, I think he can do so a little bit better than most of these quarterbacks here. So that's why I have him here at number 4.
At number 3, I have Jacoby Brissett of the Indianapolis Colts. Jacoby Brissett has played very well in place of Andrew Luck, and I think he's only getting better as a guy that's growing, who's a younger player. Has a very good arm. I think he's very similar to Andrew Luck in kind of the mold of the type of player that they are. Kind of big bodies, kind of athletic, good arms down the field. He has a really good attitude, positive dude. He's made some plays kind of even on bad Colts teams where that one season they were pretty bad, and he still made some plays and had some games where he was pretty impressive. So from a physical standpoint, he's one of the better ones in the league. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jacoby actually got a starting role somewhere else within the next 2 seasons.
He will be on my list, but he's not my number 3 because at number 3 I have Teddy Bridgewater. I like what Teddy B.
Wow.
Yeah, I have him high. I like Teddy B. As Minnesota is my second team, I watched him in his playoff run, and I really liked what I saw. I thought there was potential. I think he needed to get some things going a little bit more. But I think that he had that potential, and then Blair Walsh missed the kick, and we never forgave him. But anyways, I think what Teddy B can bring is a little bit of energy. It's interesting to see that he stayed with the Saints. I thought he was going to get a deal somewhere else, but he's decided to stay. I think we just need to see a little bit more on the field. That's why there's a little bit of question marks and why I have him here at 3 instead of a little bit higher, because we haven't seen a whole lot of him since that time in Minnesota. But I think he needs to be given the opportunity to do so. And I think he can step up and make some big plays going forward. So I have him here at number 3. I like Teddy B.
At number 2, I have Ryan Tannehill. He was recently on the Miami Dolphins as a starting quarterback. He's made the playoffs before as a starting quarterback. He's actually won some games. If you look up his record, it's actually pretty good. It's not, like he's led teams to victories. He's pretty athletic guy. I think he can do everything Mariota can do, basically. He can run very well. He's very underrated in that aspect. He's pretty athletic. He was a former receiver. Not a guy that's going to make a lot of downfield throws, but he can definitely effectively move the ball down the field in a short passing game. And yeah, he has a lot of experience. I think he's at this point in his career where maybe he's looking to prove himself as a backup, but I don't know if he's necessarily kind of pushing for a starting job right now. I think he's probably pretty happy in this backup role. So that also is a factor of, he could probably be a pretty positive force behind Marcus Mariota. And if Mariota does go down, I think he can, like I said, do everything he can do, win some games and be just as good. And it wouldn't really be like anybody is slipping up or any difference in the lineup.
I'm interested to see your number 1 because I don't think he's on my list. Surprisingly.
He's not.
Okay, interesting. At number 2, Jacoby Brissett. I really like what Jacoby Brissett has brought to the Colts. When Andrew Luck was hurt in 2017, they didn't win a whole lot of games, but you could see that flashes of potential with Jacoby Brissett. You could see the certain things that make him a starting caliber quarterback somewhere in the NFL. He could run. He was a very good runner, in my opinion. He could throw down the field. He had that accuracy level. And I know they didn't win a whole lot of games with him, but he was thrown into the wolves, basically. Like, okay, you're replacing Andrew Luck. Go ahead. Here's the Colts team. And they weren't all that great. But you saw those flashes of potential, and I think a team could be calling for his name a little bit down the line. Plus, he seems like he's a good guy. He's got some good things that I really like more than most quarterbacks on this list. I think there's just like that ceiling is there for Jacoby Brissett. So I do like him here at this number 2 spot.
My number 1 is arguably the greatest backup quarterback in the history of backup quarterbacks, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay?
So you went the other direction. Okay.
Because when he's a backup, he's really good. But when he's a starter, he's shit. So like he'll be he'll throw 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions as a backup. Then the next week, as a starter, he'll go 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, he is a proud dad. He loves eating cake. He loves being the backup. And when he's asked to fill in for a quarter or two, man, the guy is magic. That's where he gets the name from. But when he is the actual starter, he is doggy doo-doo. So Ryan Fitzpatrick is number 1, the best backup in the NFL.
See, I agree with your assumptions. He is better than any quarterback on this list. I just didn't think he was the backup. That's why I didn't put him on this list, because I feel like they're going to start him. Number 1 for me, it's already been mentioned, Ryan Tannehill. You know why I put him at number 1, Mitch? Because
you don't have Fitzpatrick on your list?
Well, correct. But more than anything else, it's basically Marcus Mariota. You can interchange these guys in terms of styles and play, and I wouldn't recognize the difference. Okay? If Marcus Mariota goes down tomorrow, he's done for a couple months, and Tannehill needs to come in.
Would you let's put this in your head. Would you even change your prediction for their record?
Maybe 1 game. Maybe. It wouldn't change a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like, their offense, I think, got better with their receivers. I think their offensive line is pretty good. Their defense is really underrated. The quarterback has been their biggest question mark for the last 3 seasons, and that's why they've gotten there at 8-8 or 9-7. If you put Tannehill in this scenario, I don't think much changes. And with other quarterbacks on this list, it's like you could fill in a role and be a game manager and play fine, maybe get a win. With Tannehill, I think he has the highest ceiling to get them a decent amount of wins and, possibly make them the playoffs. So that's why I have him here at number 1. He is the biggest example of a backup quarterback that could come in right now and fill in the role for their team.
Do you think the Chargers would make the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback?
Maybe. The thing is that like they have a really talented team. We like what the Chargers do. I just don't know what Tyrod Taylor, like, is he going to bring that Tyrod Taylor of 2016 when he was with the Bills? Or is he going to bring me the 2018 where he kind of sucked and got replaced? Yeah. I think they'll win. They'll definitely win games. They definitely, 7-9, 8-8. But couldn't they reach that role of 10-6, 11-5? I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
I like the question, though. It is a definitely fair question, considering he has had playoffs, gotten in the playoffs before.
Would the Patriots make the playoffs with any of their backups?
With Brian,
Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer?
Here's the thing. I wasn't a big fan of Jarrett Stidham, but also Auburn's offense was terrible last year. Not with Brian Hoyer. Sorry, not with Brian Hoyer.
He's so bad.
He's so ass.
I don't even know why he's in the NFL anymore. He can't even throw.
He loves getting a contract. They just want to give him money wherever. He can be that backup forever. With Stidham, no, he's too unpolished. He's too much.
So?
Yeah, he's too much of a gamble.
Yeah,
like
I'm
obviously
that something happens to Brady.
And now playing Jarrett Stidham. Oh my! I'd be like,
no, I don't know. Stidham, maybe. I don't think Hoyer though.
I give him a chance, but I mean, there's just like too much. You know what I'm saying?
I still think they wouldn't have a losing record though.
No, I don't think so. It'd be tough because
I still think they would at least be 8-8.
Because think about it, right? The Patriots' season last year was more focused on the run game. So if they need to come in, if Sony Michel has to go as much as he needs to go, or James White, maybe they could use that way. So
they would definitely change the way they play. There's no doubt about it.
And of course, if you still got Bill Belichick, at the helm, he's gonna change something. He's going to try his best to do something. And remember when the sun-polished rookie named Tom Brady came in the middle of his 2000 season and won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that these guys are Tom Brady, but I feel like somebody's been able to do this once before. So just a big, bold opinion there.
All right. We're done?
Yeah, we're done skis. We're done skis. Go Skittle says we were this close to getting Will Grier. Maybe Will Grier would have. Again, we didn't make rookies on here, but he could be a decent backup. You did say he is a career backup in our draft video, so I don't know. All right, with that, I think that's gonna do it for us, guys. Good episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed. Of course, next week, big episode, big game. Kev, Mitch, Luca from the Waterboy Report gonna be on here answering the big time. Easy dub, says Mitch. He's issuing the challenge to Luca and Kev. They better be on their A game because I have confidence. This man studies NFL like it's crazy.
It better not be some glitchy question like in 1969 in week 2. How many yards did Fran Tarkenton throw for?
Okay, so here's an example, right? So the question is going to have multiple answers. It's going to have a ton.
Oh, it's going to be A, B, C, D.
Yeah. Well, no. Not quite like that. Not quite like that. So, okay. Let me give an example of a question I'm not using, but they would fit the standard, right?
Okay.
So, it would be like 8 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have thrown for 5,000 yards. Can you name them? Okay. That's a very easy question because, like, a question that I have has, like, over 50 answers, but it would be... Yeah.
How am I going to name 50 fucking answers?
It's going to go back and forth. One guy gives an answer, another guy gives an answer, another guy goes so
until you run out?
Until you either run out or once you get the answer correct, you're out of the round. That kind of thing. I don't know if
there's 50 answers.
If there's 50 answers and you don't get the answer, like if you get a person wrong or whatever, you're out for that round. Okay. And then we stop once one person is left in that round. And then there's 3 rounds to this game. So, and then a final off between the 2 highest scoring players in this game. So, you guys will see. I don't want to get
How are you going to not have cheating?
I'm not going to give you guys the question until you start. I
mean like somebody may Google it. Like I could see Kevil Google question.
We're gonna go by the honor system. I hope you guys don't freaking cheat. I have trust in you 3 to be nice, honorable guys for the fans. I hope you guys don't do that. Because there is one question. Only one question is gonna have like 50 responses. The other 2 are gonna have like 20 or 30 or whatever. But you'll see how it goes.
How many questions?
Huh?
How many questions?
So it's 3 questions, and then the guys that have the 2 highest scores, because we'll go on points. You get a point for each correct answer. The guys that have the 2 highest points will go off to a sudden death game. Yeah, a sudden death matchup between the 2 highest scores. So I feel like it's intriguing. It has layers to it. It has a bunch.
I'm intrigued to hear what these questions are.
And I will not give, by the way, for the fans, I will not give these guys the questions until we go live. They will not know these questions. They will not have time to study about these questions. They'll just have to go off the top of their dome to try to think of these answers. So I do have a couple of interesting questions. So go and check. That's next week. If you guys want to be one of the guys that have an opportunity to win a jersey, get on that episode, because I will be picking 3 fans as representatives for these guys. Ooh. So stay tuned. Next Friday, 2 p.m. Central. I got the time as well, because that's when Luke is going to join. So 2 p.m. Central. Mitch, anything to plug?
Go watch my video from today, which was the 5 teams that made the playoffs last year who will miss it this year. And if you haven't checked out the other one, the 5 new playoff teams as well, those are the 2 latest videos from me from today and yesterday. And coming up, I have a topic video on the Vikings and a couple of other things planned, but don't really know what order they're coming out, so can't really plug it now. But Vikings video coming soon for Vikings fans and NFL fans in general. Perfect. And we are closing in on that 12,000 mark. So
yes, sir. Less than 100 away. Subscribe to the channel to get us to that 12,000, but also get that great football content. Mitch has had that video, a couple of those videos out for certain teams. If your team has been watched, you watch that. And if it hasn't been yet, stay tuned, because he could be making more of those. You guys will be getting the solo videos for the top 10 backup quarterbacks, and the one reason why your favorite team won't be winning you have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. Next week, of course, is the big podcast. We will also, on that podcast, be talking about one reason why your favorite team won't be winning Super Bowl 54. So you'll be able to stay tuned for that, and some more stuff coming in the near future. For Mitch, it's still another Bottom Line View. Peace out, guys.